All right, we are live. I'm going to give people a minute or two to gather. I know it's late, but I had some stuff happening. Could not get this done earlier. Right guy, Jerome, Adam, welcome. All right. Wow, we already got 13 people in here somehow. Austin, Ace and Panda, Dracu. Okay, we're building up people pretty quickly. Cable Man, Chaotic. All right. Stream has now been live for 1 minute. So I'm going to go ahead and get underway here. I like to do these streams a little earlier in the day usually, but today I just had something going on, so we're doing it a little late. I know this means that some people who usually join my streams will probably not join this stream, but sorry about that. Yeah. So, yeah. This stream is going to be about the cornerback position for Seattle, but I know that everybody kind of has their mind on other stuff right now with the Wilson stuff. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes at the start talking about the Wilson thing. I have no real desire to talk about the Russell Wilson stuff. I don't really feel like that much has changed since my last video on the topic. We know he's unhappy. I don't think it's surprising that the team is now at least listening to offers, because when you have an unhappy player, you want to at least consider doing getting him out. I don't think that's anything that makes a trade a lot more likely. I still think the obstacles to trading Wilson are present, and I think they are going to prove very difficult to overcome. So I'm not really going to say anything about Wilson in this stream because I feel like what I've said still stands. I haven't seen enough evidence yet that a trade is now much more likely than it was. I feel like that a lot of the stuff we saw today was just clickbait. Like, I know one reporter said that the Seahawks were now actively trying to trade Wilson and was immediately contradicted by several other NFL reporters. So it's just really important that you don't get too caught up in this kind of stuff, guys. These people just want your attention. One thing I want to say about the Wilson stuff before I get into cornerbacks is something that is kind of a reply to what I saw in some of the comments on my last Wilson video. A lot of people were saying, you know, we don't need to trade Russell Wilson. We need to fire Pete Carroll. And some people even got mad at me for saying that we should trade Wilson instead of firing Carroll. And to those people, if they happen to be watching this video, or if they're the people watching this video have that sentiment, I want to say that I agree with that. But I do not consider firing Russell Wilson this offseason to be something that has any chance of happening at all. So I don't really talk about it very much. I think this team would be better served to move on from Pete Carroll. I've said that for about a year and a half now. And I've given Carroll credit from time to time, but over the last year and a half, I've been pretty solidly in the camp of, I think this guy is starting to hold us back more than he is helping us win. And I'd like to do something different, but I just don't think it's going to happen. He just signed a massive extension. He's the most successful coach in franchise history. We have a brand new owner. And I just don't feel like it's worth talking about because I just don't believe it can happen. The Wilson trade can happen. It's a possibility. By the way, I'm just assuming you guys can hear me, or you would have said something by now. But if you guys can't hear me, let me know. But anyway, it is possible that one of the two just has to go. And I personally would prefer, if that is the case, that Carroll would go. You know, this idea of, you know, Wilson can be a great QB and Carroll can be a great coach, but they cannot coexist. If that is true, then so be it. So in that scenario, one of them just has to go, and Carroll cannot go because of all the stuff I just said. Therefore, Wilson has to go. If it is true that those two can only succeed when they're apart from each other, then Wilson just has to go. Even if I would rather get rid of Carroll, Carroll can't go. So that's where I'm coming at this from. I'm not a fan of Carroll. I don't think he's a very good coach anymore. I think that this team should fire Carroll to keep Wilson if it comes to that, but that's not going to happen. So what can happen is a Wilson trade. So I've been entertaining that. That's why I'm not making videos about Carroll getting fired, because I know it's not going to happen. And honestly, even though I do believe that Carroll is a problem and needs to go before Russ, it's at least arguable now with the way the season ended. So that's really all I'm going to say about the Wilson stuff, guys. I don't really care about anything that was said today. For me, nothing has really changed. Making a trade to take on a $40 million cap hit in a year when you don't even have your first pick, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it is possible that we swallow it. So I feel it's worth talking about. Carroll getting fired right now? No, it's not going to happen. The only thing that could happen is that he steps down because of health issues. That's the only way Pete leaves this offseason, I think. He's not getting fired. No matter how much Wilson demands Carroll get fired, if Wilson goes to Jody Allen and demands get Carroll out of here or I'm not showing up to OTAs this offseason, I don't think she would do it. I think Pete won that power struggle. All right. Now, let's move to cornerback. And this is going to be the final positional group that I think is clearly and obviously a need for the Seattle Seahawks in 2021's offseason. We went over, center, tight end, left guard, and defensive tackle, and now cornerback. So cornerback is, I think, clearly something we need to do something about this offseason. Shaq, I think, is probably gone. Dunbar is a free agent. Ryan Neal's a free agent, although he'll be very easy to keep, and I think that we will. And we just have a lot of question marks at that position. So just to refresh your memory on where we are at cornerback right now, that's basically the rundown. Shaq is a free agent. Dunbar is a free agent. Ryan Neal is a free agent. I think everybody else is under contract for at least one more year. But as of right now, if we did not sign or draft any new cornerbacks, we would go into 2021 with cornerback 1 being DJ Reed, cornerback 2 being Trey Flowers, and cornerback 3 being Ugo Amadi, which is fine. Totally fine there. Actually, one oddity about our roster right now is that we are stacked at nickel cornerback. We have Ugo Amadi, we have Marquise Blair, we have, DJ Reed kind of can move to in nickel corner and maybe even be better there anyway, so you can throw him in there. We have, what's that guy's name? Ryan Neal, I think, has played a little bit of nickel, although I think he can play outside corner as well. We're fine at nickel corner. But the issue is the outside corners. It's a problem. So, yeah, we need to either keep our guys or go get new guys or draft new guys. So, first, before we get into that, let me take the temperature of the chat real quick. We got 21 people in here right now, I think. Yeah, 21. Let's start with Shaquille Griffin. If he asks for a market value, which is probably going to be somewhere around 4 years, 40 million. How do you feel about that? Do you want to bring him back for 4 years, 40 million, yay or nay? All right, so everybody is saying no, and just for fun, let me ask this: at what price would you be willing to keep Shaq? At what price point would you start saying, we might actually have to think about this for a second? 8? 8 million a year, I assume that's what you mean, Alex. 7 to 8 million, okay. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Okay, so it seems like most people are not on board with keeping Shaq. So I'm with you guys. I don't really want to keep Shaq either, especially not if he goes for 10 million a year. I don't know what price I would be okay with bringing him back on, but not 10 mil a year. Okay, so next up we have Quentin Dunbar, who was new to the team last year, did not really do that much before he got hurt. He embarrassed himself in one game. He was playing hurt. He shouldn't have been out there. But Dunbar, I estimated, and I could be way off. But I estimated, based off all the little particulars around Dunbar's unique situation, that he would probably be looking for something like 2 years, 12 million. 2 years, 12 million. So, chat, if you have the opportunity to sign Quentin Dunbar to 2 years, 2 million, do you do it? Yay or nay? Okay, it seems like a lot of people are on board with Dunbar. No, chaotic. 2 years, 12 million. 2 years, 12 million. Or maybe 1 year, 6 million. If you prefer a shorter term deal, which Dunbar may have to take. He didn't do anything last year. Hey, Caleb. So it seems like a lot of people are on board with keeping Dunbar, which I will say right now, I am too. I think that this team should go ahead and bring back Dunbar. And if the price tag is 2 years, 12 million, I'm willing to do that. Now the cap went down, so it's possible it could be like 1 year, 5 million instead, or something like that. But if it's the price is in that range, I'm willing to take on Dunbar and make him one of my starting outside corners. So just to go ahead and kind of give away a little bit of what I want to do, I would keep Dunbar. And the final guy would be Ryan Neal, but I think everybody in this chat's going to want to keep him because Ryan Neal is going to be extremely cheap and he's good. And there's no reason to not keep him. So I'm not even going to really go into that. Now, if you keep Dunbar, you still have a problem. Well, you have a depth problem because then your starting corners are going to be Dunbar, which is fine until he gets hurt, but it's fine. And DJ Reed, who is a midget, but he played pretty well last year on outside corner. And then behind them, you have Trey Flowers. And I don't think very many people here are high on Trey Flowers. And if you are, then you have to at least concede that he did not do much to instill confidence last year. Even if you do like Trey Flowers, behind him, you start to get down to like Ryan Neal or Jackson Stanley, which isn't the worst, but it's not a great position to be. So that brings us to free agency. So if you watched the video I posted yesterday, I went over some names, and there are some names that are very obvious. And I know everybody in chat is going to think of them immediately when they think of free agent corners this offseason. The first one I talked about was Patrick Peterson of the Cardinals. He's been there 10 years and he got let go. Now he's out there looking for money. And I know that there are going to be some Seahawks fans that want to bring him in. I know there are going to be some Seahawks fans that think he could be the missing piece to this defense. I went through in my video today why I really don't think that's the case. And if Patrick Peterson pursues his market value, which is inflated because he's a future Hall of Famer, then he's probably going to get somewhere around 3 years, 30 million. 3 years, 30 million. So, I don't know if anyone in the chat is on board with giving Patrick Peterson 3 years, 30 million, but I'm going to assume that's not the case. So I will tell you that I don't want any part of that. I am very dismissive of that idea. Yeah, JJ Watt is a good comp, right, guy? JJ got more money than he should because he's a future Hall of Famer. Patrick Peterson probably will too for the same reason. Okay, seems like nobody wants to give Peterson that much money. I could see him playing for less. I don't think he'll need to. Look at the money JJ Watt just got. And I'm going to real quickly go by a couple other players. Richard Sherman, even though I put him in the thumbnail, I really want to push back against the idea of signing Sherman. I want to push back against the idea of signing AJ Bouye, who I think is in a similar position. He never got to be as good as Sherman or Peterson, but he's a guy who has been good in the past and is going to be expensive because he was good in the past. And you're going to be paying for what he used to do rather than what he's going to do now. So, yes, I do not want Peterson. I do not want Sherman. I do not want AJ Bouye. If you want to throw McCourty in there as well, I don't really want him either. So all those old guys who are past their prime, Desmond Trufant is another guy who's kind of in that category. So I'm just not really feeling it with those. I'm not really feeling it with any of those guys. I, as a general rule, do not like paying cornerbacks big money in free agency. So I feel like you pay a lot of money to get not that much good. And cornerbacks, maybe more than any position, are contextual. Whether they succeed or fail often has to do with things that are completely out of their control. So if we are to sign a cornerback in free agency, there are only 2 names that stood out to me, and I went over them in my video yesterday. I'll go over them again today. And the way I see it, you have the, modest cost option, and then you have an option where you're swinging for the fences a little bit. You have in the former corner, Bashad Breland. He is somebody who I would consider bringing in for like maybe 2 years, 10 million. No, Washi, not right now. It's not a good time for me to do call-in stuff. I don't have the hardware that makes it sound good, but Bashad Breland is the first name that stood out to me as somebody who I would be interested in maybe bringing in. I think he would be like 2 years, 10 million. He's had pretty good seasons the last couple years. He's been on the Chiefs the last couple years, and obviously they've been a very good team. He makes some plays on the ball. I think he's been better in the past, actually. I think when he was on the Redskins back when he was first drafted, he was better than he is now. So Bashad Breland would be an option if you want to spend a little bit of money, but not a lot of money. So I think that's pretty reasonable. So how do you guys feel? I know you guys probably don't watch a ton of Kansas City Chiefs football. You probably don't watch a ton of film on Bashad Breland. Isn't Xavier Rhodes like super washed up, chaotic? He's another guy who's like the Sherman or the Pat Pete. But anyway, Bashad Breland, based off what I just said and what you know, how would you feel about 2 years, 10 million? I think it's a decent option. I'm not in love with it, but if we got him, I think it would be okay. I feel like Xavier Rhodes is kind of in the Sherman Peterson category. I'm not feeling it. I feel like you're going to pay a lot of money for what he did on other teams and not for what he's going to do on your team. Okay, seems like people are pretty okay with Breland. The second guy I want to go over here real quick is the guy you could sign if you want to kind of swing for the fences. Alex, I could be wrong, but isn't Jason Verrett more of a nickel corner? We don't need nickel corners. We have many players on this roster that can play effective nickel corner. And Ugo might be actually really good at it. We still have Blair coming back. DJ Reed can play nickel. We have a lot of guys that can play nickel effectively in Pete's defense. I don't think we need more. Okay, so this next guy is somebody, if you want to spend a decent chunk of money, not a ton of money, but it's a bit more of an investment, and you get somebody who has a lot of talent and might be elite in Carroll's system if Carroll's able to get the right stuff out of him, and that is William Jackson III, cornerback from the Bengals, former first-round pick. He's been there for 4 years, and he's played really well on a very bad team. I think last year's PFF grade was somewhere around 72. His coverage numbers are very good. He doesn't give up very many touchdowns. He's a generally all-around impressive player, and he's done it on a team that has really been quite bad for his whole career almost. So that's the one guy who I'd be willing to give some significant money to this offseason that I think could be like a out-of-the-box stud for us, potentially. He'd have to pick up Pete's system, of course, but that's the guy who, in my estimation, is the closest we're going to get to a blue chipper in our position. Beanie Lattimore is a man corner. We play zone. I don't think he fits. So William Jackson, I estimated something like 3 years, 19 million, 3 years, 18 million, which is not huge, but it's not nothing. So if you have the opportunity to get William Jackson to be one of your starting outside corners for about 3 years, 18 to 19 million, how do you feel about that, chat? Go ahead. I'm going to look up Jason Verrett real quick, by the way. Yeah, he's 5'10". That's something that I think Carroll is not going to be too excited about. Troy Hill is 5'11", which I don't think Pete would like very much either. Sidney Jones hasn't done anything in the NFL. Yeah, Dracu, some of these guys that you're talking about, and I want to, again, iterate, Carroll likes his outside corners to have size. DJ Reed is kind of an aberration. We played him because we had to, and he ended up doing pretty well, but Carroll likes outside corners who have length. So if you're going to suggest a corner like a Jason Verrett or Troy Hill, I would say if they're under 6 feet, I don't think Carroll's all that interested in doing that. Witherspoon's reasonable. He wasn't one of the names that jumped out to me when I was trying to do some research, but again, I don't research every single name who's out there. There are going to be some guys out there who I don't necessarily directly reference who are going to be good. Mike Hilton. I think Mike Hilton's going to be pretty expensive. That might cost a good deal more than William Jackson will. Introverted Tree, this isn't these aren't trading cards. Okay, you can't just trade DK Metcalf or Jalen Ramsey. We're not swapping trading cards in the freaking playground right now, bro. Okay, so yeah, let's go through some more free agent options. Like I said, Mike Hilton is good. I also just think he's going to be extremely expensive. Andrew, he's 5'11", which is fringe. I don't know how Carroll would feel about that. I think he, again, likes to have big outside corners. Again, we're talking about 1 or 2 inches here, but I think Carroll does care about that stuff. And while Carroll's here, we want to give him what he wants to work with. Really, Alex? Okay, that would not be bad at all. 3 years, $12 million for Mike Hilton would be very reasonable. If that's true, then yeah, Mike Hilton's a reasonable option. actually, oh, okay. So I just looked this up. Mike Hilton is 5'9", the same height as DJ Reed. Okay. Never mind everything I just said. I'm not interested in Mike Hilton anymore. Leroy, if the stuff around Golden Tate is exaggerated and he and Wilson are on good terms, that's actually a really good idea. I don't know what Tate is going to want this offseason, though. Isn't JC Jackson going to cost like $10 million a year, though? Yeah, Awuzie, chaotic. That's another name. I didn't mention him in the video, but Awuzie is kind of interesting. Wiggy, I hate bringing in old corners unless you kind of actually absolutely have to. Okay, so that's basically free agency. There are a bunch of guys who would probably be fine, but again, there were just two guys that stood out to me. Breland, if you want to be a little cheap, and William Jackson III, if you want to make a fat investment. Possibly even fatter than I'm thinking. I estimated like 3 years, maybe 20 million. 3 years, 20. It could be more. But that would be the guy I would be willing to go all the way for. All right. Going to take a moment. 32 people in the stream. Thank you for coming out tonight to stream with me. Please like the stream if you haven't yet. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and want more Seahawks content. I upload almost every day. And consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button down below. And yeah, that's about it. So that brings us to the draft. And I think it's very likely that even if we sign Shaq and Dunbar, we should probably draft a corner somewhere because that plays to Carroll's strengths as a talent evaluator. And I think this is a pretty good draft for corners. So I think there's a very good chance that even if we kept both free agent corners, we would want to draft somebody. So first, let's play with the idea of drafting a corner in the second round. Because if we lose Shaq and if we lose Dunbar and we don't sign any free agents, it's a very good possibility we use our first pick on a corner because we're going to desperately need one. So if we use our second round pick on a cornerback, there are two guys that stood out to me, and I went over them in my video earlier yesterday, but I'll do it again. The first guy is J.C. Horn. He's the son of Joe Horn. I think most guys in the chat will remember Joe Horn on the Saints. And according to the scouting that I've read, he fits well as a starting outside corner in a zone coverage scheme. So there's some stuff there that needs to be worked on. He's not a great tackler, but he's got a lot of size. He's got length. He's physical. It sounds like something that Carroll would be excited to work with. And his transitions are not great, which I know Pete is really into because the transitions he teaches his cornerbacks tend to be different from everyone else's. So that's kind of interesting. So J.C. Horn is the first guy I would really like to narrow in on if we decide to take a cornerback with our first pick. Introverted in a vacuum or at price? I mean, if it's at price, then I already said what I wanted to do at the start of the video, introverted. I don't know if you missed it, but Dunbar. Shaq's probably better than Dunbar, but Shaq isn't so much better that I'm willing to give him 3.5 times the money. The other guy that I would be interested in drafting in the second round would be Eric Stokes, cornerback from Georgia. He's also 6'1", so he has decent size. I know he had 4 interceptions last year, and I know he projects to be an outside corner, and he also projects to be good in zone. So I like the fact that he developed a playmaker, became a playmaker in his final year in college. And yeah, I think that if we use our second round pick, Eric Stokes would work as well. More likely is that we use a later round pick on a cornerback, 4th round or later. And there are a few names that I want to talk about A couple of them I went over in my video yesterday, and a couple that I didn't. The first name I want to go over real quick is somebody. These are the two new guys, and I'll go over them real quick. Benjamin St. Juste from Minnesota. He's 6'3", so he's got that Richard Sherman size. He fits Carroll's scheme. He probably wouldn't be an out-of-the-box starter, but I really like what I see about him. He's got a long body. If you read his profile, it sounds a decent amount like Richard Sherman. So I would love St. Juste to be our new corner, but he's probably going to be a low third to high fourth round pick, so there's no guarantee that we can even get him. The other guy I want to go over is, and I did not go over him in my video because I just didn't really have time for it, but there is Shaun Wade, who at one point I think was going to be a first-round pick, but he has fallen significantly. I don't really like this because, according to some things I've read, he's more likely to project as a safety in the NFL than a corner. And if he plays corner, it will probably be at nickel, according to what I'm reading now. Carroll could maybe groom him because he does have outside corner size, but I'm a little wary about that. But Shaun Wade is a dude who was projected to go very high in the draft, and now he's not. So there's probably something there, but I'm not crazy excited about this. So let's get to the two guys that I did go over in my video today, starting with my personal favorite. This is the guy that I really like, Tyson Campbell from Georgia. He's 6'2", little skinny, $185, needs to gain a little bit of weight, but he's a zone corner, and he's also a press corner, and he's clearly projects to be an outside corner. I think he fits our defense under Pete Carroll pretty much perfectly. I think he slots right in as being a likely fourth round pick. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. In my dream mock draft for 2021, in my dream offseason, Tyson Campbell is selected by the Seahawks in round number 4. So if you guys want to know who I really like, it's Tyson Campbell out of Georgia. And the last name I want to touch on is the hometown kid, Keith Taylor Jr., 6'2" outside corner from Washington. No, I'm not enamored with him or anything. He did not have a single interception in 4 years in college, which kind of makes me think, maybe his ceiling is kind of low. But I think he fits a lot of the stuff we would like to do in Seattle. So that's really it for me. Those are the guys that I like. My favorite on a value basis would be Tyson Campbell. And I'll finalize this statement at the end of the video, but I would love to bring in Tyson Campbell in the draft. So now I'm going to open it up to the chat. If there are any cornerbacks in this draft that I did not mention that you like, go ahead, shout them out, and if I have something to say, I'll let you know. I saw somebody in the chat said Paulson Adebo from Stanford. That's pretty good. The site that I use thinks he's going to be a high third-round pick. So we would probably trade down a little bit to get him. So that would not be bad. I would only really want to do this if we had a desperate need at corner. Israel Mukuamu from South Carolina, another guy who is 6'3", which jumps off the charts to me. I like that. And this is a very intriguing talent. I know a little bit about this guy. I've read a little bit about this guy. He's another guy who projects to go in the third. So we would probably trade down and get him, or trade up from the fourth round to get him. So yeah, those names are both interesting and appealing to me as well. It's a little harder to get them with our current picks. We would probably have to either trade up or trade down, but those would be pretty reasonable as well. Some people were asking about Ahsante Samuel Jr., and I really think this is just because he has a famous last name. Ahsante Samuel Jr. is 5'10". He's definitely projected to be a nickel corner in the NFL. There is, in my estimation, very little chance that would work for us. And another name that I think people only want because he's the hometown kid is Elijah Molden. I know somebody in chat is eventually going to bring up Elijah Molden because he was a Husky, and he's a great player, but he's 5'10", and he's probably not a fit in Pete Carroll's scheme as an outside corner, which is what we need. So if anybody else has any other draftees they like, go ahead, shout it out. Anything I missed on corner, anything else you want to talk about with regard to corner, go ahead. If you want to talk about Russ, I guess I can't stop you. I don't have a ton to say about it that I haven't already said, but yeah, I guess you can ask about it and I can say what I can say. Eric Stokes, yes. He was the second name I mentioned, right? Yeah, the cornerback from Georgia. I said, yeah, I mentioned him up at the top of the draft stuff. Eric Stokes would be somebody that I think would be really good to pick up in the second round. I think he has a good chance to be there in the second round, and he would definitely be a good option. I think I like J.C. Horn a little bit more if he's there, but he might not be there. So, yeah, Eric Stokes I think would be a good pick in the second. Would I take Desmond Trufant? Not really skills unless he's playing for the veteran minimum. Well, Eric, you do know free agency hasn't started yet. We can't sign anybody except for the guys who got cut like J.J. Watt did. And those are few and far between. We cannot sign anybody for 13 games. 13 days, excuse me. So, yeah, that's very understandable. Yeah, I always prefer to draft corner. I will almost never advocate for signing a corner out of free agency because we have Pete Carroll and he should be good at this shit. If he can't find good corners in the draft, then he really is worthless. That's his greatest asset, getting cornerback talent cheap and developing it. If he cannot do that, then there are very few things he can do as an NFL coach that are worth having around. Project named Chase Lucas. Let me see if he's on the list I have. Chase Lucas. Well, he really is a project because I don't see him here. Hello, Ayaan. So, yeah, I think that's basically all I can say about corner at this point. I view this as the last position that really needs to be addressed this offseason. Chase Stern, I looked him up a little bit, and I really liked what I saw. Actually, he's a lot like Benjamin St-Juste from Minnesota. He's big and lanky. They're both 6'3" and over 200 pounds. So Israel would be great, but he's probably going to be like a mid-third round pick according to my scouts. So we would either need to trade way down or trade way up. I would take a look at F.A. Cameron Sutton. I don't know that name very well off the top of my head. It would probably be pretty reasonable. I would probably draft the Minnesota cornerback. Yeah, Benjamin St-Juste is very interesting. And if he fell to the fourth round, I would immediately jump on that no matter anything else. Trill Williams. Okay. Syracuse, 6'2". Okay, I'm listening. Probably have to be a second round pick. He can fit any scheme. He does have some stuff to learn. He's long rangey. Okay, that's another good option. There are a lot of corners I like in this draft. Oh, Ayaan, believe me, I know that, but I think he has some talents that Carroll would appreciate and like working with. So if we get down to the 4th round and everyone else I like is gone, I would not mind getting Keith Taylor Jr. at all. He's not everything that I want in a corner prospect, but he's not bad. Skills, no, I don't. It doesn't make any sense to. The players we have that are like KJ that we have need to get out. We don't need to bring in more. Okay, so I'm willing to keep the stream going for another 20 minutes. Ayaan, Mike Hilton is 5'9". That makes him more of a nickel corner. And the way I see it, we are good at nickel corner. We have Ugo, we have Marquise Blair, we have, I guess you could throw DJ Reed in there, even though we're playing him outside right now. We even have like Ryan Neal, who seems like he can play nickel. I feel like we're good there. I don't need another guy who would play nickel in this defense. Yeah, Wiggy, I tend to agree. We probably can wait till the 4th, but here's the thing. If we need to draft somebody who will be a day 1 starter, I don't think we can wait. These guys in the 4th round who I like are probably not day 1 starters. And maybe we get lucky, kind of like we did with Trey Flowers, but most of the time you don't. Yeah, Wiggy, I think that's very possible. In fact, my current dream offseason scenario involves us trading to the early 3rd. Chidobe Awuzie, yeah, Mask. We talked about him a little bit before you got here. I like Awuzie well enough. He caught my eye a few times in Dallas. He's got, let me look this up. Okay, he's 6 feet tall. That's workable. Yeah, Awuzie is interesting, and he's not going to be that expensive because it's not like he lit the world on fire in Dallas. DJ Daniel. Let me take a look here. I think I've seen that name before. Give me a second here. Yeah, DJ Daniel, another Georgia cornerback. Wow, Georgia knows how to turn out them defensive backs this year. That would not be a bad idea to get. Based off what I'm seeing, he might go undrafted. So this would be a great pickup in undrafted free agency based off what I'm seeing here in his profile. I mean, Ayush, Carroll makes it work more than most people. But you're right. And one thing with corners that I want to stress again is so much of corner play is contextual, which is why I don't like giving big contracts to corners in free agency. So much of what they do is dependent on everything around them. Josh Norman was the greatest cornerback ever one year in Carolina. He went to Washington, and I don't think he was ever even close to being the same. So, I don't want to give $10 million a year to Shaquille Griffin, for example, because I just feel like you could spend 40% of that and get something pretty comparable. CB Michael Davis, free agent. Where's he from? Oh, Chargers. Okay. Mark Webb, but his tackling sucks. I mean, that's something that can generally be fixed. Not always, but sometimes. I'm not worried about Blair's height because if he's going to play corner, it's going to be as a nickel. And with nickel cornerbacks in Carroll's scheme, he's much more accepting of a shorter player. No, DBU is probably still Ohio State. Ohio State is more likely to turn out the top 5, top 10 DBs. Yeah, height doesn't really matter to me if you're playing nickel. Carroll doesn't seem to care if you're small if you're playing nickel, but he does care about height if you're going to play outside. That's why I prioritize it so much. There are certain kinds of corners he likes and corners that he doesn't like. Look at Michael Davis stats this year. All right. Okay. 3 picks, 14 PDs, solid. Yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty good. He's 6'2" as well. This is another good option. See, just because I didn't mention somebody doesn't mean they won't be good. Like, there are a lot of guys we could get that I didn't mention just because this isn't my full-time job. All right. So we got less than 15 minutes left in this stream. I think we're doing a good job here, guys. There are a lot of good corners we can get this offseason, which is another reason why I don't want to bring back Shaq. I'm down with bringing in Dunbar because I feel like we need one outside veteran who can start. Patrice Rene. The Draft Network doesn't seem to have him listed. Yeah, I don't think they do. All right. So, in summary, here's what I would do if I controlled this offseason for the Seahawks from a cornerback perspective. As it stands right now, and I want to stress, this is not the only thing that I think would be good to do. There are probably a dozen things we could do at corner that would be fine. But this is one that stands out to me as my favorite as of right now. I would say keep Dunbar for 2 years, $12 million. I think that's probably about what he's going to get. I could be way off though because he's such an enigma. But bring back Dunbar, 2 years, $12 million, and he's your starter. And then your other starter can be DJ Reed on the outside. And I don't love it, but it will do for now. Get DJ Reed in the cornerback 2 spot. And your starting nickel cornerback would be Ugo Amadi because he earned it last year with how well he played for the most part. Ugo did good. So, yeah, Ugo, slot nickel corner. And then behind him, behind those guys, you have Trey Flowers as one of the backups. And I would draft Tyson Campbell. Tyson Campbell from Georgia in the 4th round. Now, Benjamin St. Juste would probably be just as good. So there are a lot of guys we could get in the 4th round that I would be really happy with as depth behind our starting outside corners. But I would say bring in Tyson Campbell to be a backup. And then the final backup spot on the outside can be Ryan Neal because I think he has the size for it. And that would be my corner set for next year. So re-sign Dunbar, draft Tyson Campbell, re-sign Ryan Neal, and stand pat otherwise. That's what I would do at corner. And at nickel, by backing up Ugo Amadi, I would have Marquise Blair. I think Blair needs to stick around for the moment, even though it seems like a waste, because we need a backup nickel corner that has a high ceiling just in case something happens with Ugo. And while we do have other guys on this team that can play nickel corner, they're, I think, more likely to play at other positions. Guys like Quandre Diggs, guys like maybe DJ Reed. They're occupied. Yeah, Dracu. Blair was doing some pretty good stuff, but Ugo played really well last year too, I think. I think Ugo has the potential to be Carroll's best ever nickel corner. Yeah, Mass. I mean, that's one of many creative things we can do if something happens with Ugo. But we do need more than one quality nickel corner. We can't just have Ugo. So in order to trade Blair, I would need to have a lot of confidence that somebody like Ryan Neal can play nickel reliably. And that would be my corner set going into the season. Dunbar and Reed are starting on the outside. Ugo Amadi starting on the inside. And then backing up on the outside would be Campbell and Neal and Flowers. And backing up on the inside would be Marquise Blair. And that would do that, guys. So, yeah, draft a corner, keep a corner, and then go forth. It's not a great slew of corners that we would have on this team, but I think they would fit, and I think they would be good enough if we can get enough pass rush. Yes, Y2K, we've actually been spending a decent amount of time in the chat tonight talking about all the different kinds of sea hockey corners we can get in the middle rounds of this draft. If you went back and watched this stream, we would go over a lot of them. My favorite is Tyson Campbell. The Minnesota Benjamin guy is good. Benjamin St. Just. The other Georgia guy would be good. Keith Taylor Jr. would be good. There's a lot of good guys. Dracu, there's no reason to not keep Flowers. Charvarius Ward, where does he come from, Mask? I don't know who that is off the top of my head. Yeah, Dracu B, there's no point in not keeping Flowers. He's still on his rookie deal. He's still cheap. Worst case scenario, he's a decent special teamer. And he's a body who's familiar with your system. Oh, Kansas City. Okay. I'm open to that as well. If there's one area where I think Pete kind of knows what he's doing, it should be at cornerback. Starter, but Snead probably taking his spot. I'm always worried about the guys from those Super Bowl teams being overpriced, but yeah. The guy from the Chiefs who I was actually interested in maybe signing was Bashad Breland. DJ Reed is still under contract, Y2K. He's going to be here no matter what, unless we cut him, which would make no sense because he's making like $3 this year. But it seems like we have pretty good consensus at this position. Everybody wants Shaq to go. Nobody wants to bring back Shaq. Most people want to bring back Dunbar as long as he's cheap. And I think everybody wants to bring back Ryan Neal. And everyone kind of agrees that there are a ton of good sea hockey corners in this draft. And there are also some good names in free agency. It seemed like people were down with Breland and down with William Jackson and down with a couple other guys. But yeah, it seems like there's not a lot of contention here. We need to do something. Elijah Blades. Let's see if he's on the prospect list that I have. I don't think he is. Yeah, I don't see. Oh, no. Wow, he's listed to go way undrafted from Texas A&M. 6'2", kind of interesting, but yeah, that would be somebody you can pick up in UDFA, it looks like. So he played for the Aggies, the Texas A&M Aggies. He's on the big board that I use. He's 404th, which means you're going to go undrafted by a long shot. Yes. What could we get if we traded our left tackle? Nothing. He's 85 years old and makes a ton of money. I don't think anybody's going to trade anything for Dwayne Brown. And Y2K, yeah, there are good tackles in this draft. I don't believe we're going to be able to get one. We don't have the picks for it. And I don't believe that it's a good idea to trust Wilson's blindside to a rookie right now because, yeah, he's pissed off enough at stuff. And as much as I don't appreciate the way Wilson is handling this offseason in some ways, I do think he has a valid point that it should not be an unreasonable request for this team to invest in offensive line. Well, Ayaan, it wouldn't be the extension that he thought he was going to get. It would be a very cheap and probably easily escapable extension. I said 2 years, $12 million, easy to get out after 1 year. That's basically a prove it deal. Dracu, maybe, but that's something that's hard for me to project because I don't know how Pete Carroll's mind works. He saw something in Trey that he liked. Yeah, Y2K. We've talked about Russ a decent amount in here every time I stream, no matter what the intended topic was. But I'm interested. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Water pump is a pumping. A bump. The pump is pumping. Okay. So 5 minutes left in the stream. Generally speaking, 31's probably a pretty good starting place. Everybody's different. I'm not that excited about 30-year-olds either. Yeah, Y2K, we kind of have. We're pretty much done with it now. But yeah, everybody wants to talk about Wilson. And I understand why, but I don't have any more to say about it right now. I know there was some stuff that came out yesterday. I already kind of talked about it, but I don't think it really changed that much. I think a decent amount of it was clickbait. I know there was one beat reporter that was like, Seahawks actively calling teams trying to trade Wilson, and nobody else is backing that up, and everyone else is actually pretty much contradicting it. Rabbittron, I'm getting contradictory information about that. Some people are saying you can do 3, and I've seen some other people say you can do 4. I don't know who to believe anymore. I have seen many different sources claim that it's 2 or 3 or 4. I think the reality is nobody knows because no team has ever done that, because no team has pissed off their, reasonably aged franchise QB to the extent that he forces his way out. But it's happening twice this offseason, possibly. But look, I don't always side with the teams over the players, but honor your goddamn contract, bitches. Well, Dracu, the corner that I like, the corner in free agency that stands out to me as somebody we could get is William Jackson III. He's not that old. He's good. He has some upside, and I don't think he would be super expensive. Yeah, I agree, Y2K. Holding out on the final year of a deal is okay. You are trying to get some long-term security. I remember back in the day, you guys remember this, Cam Chancellor pissed me off a lot when he held out when he had 3 years left on his deal. I was like, are you kidding me? You just signed this deal, you moron. And I love Cam, and I think all of us have gotten over that. And I don't want to hold it against him now, but like, dude, you just signed that contract. What are you doing? And by the way, the extension we eventually gave him bit us hard. I mean, I don't want to besmirch Cam because he's one of the Seahawks legends that never did anything to truly alienate himself from the team. But yeah, when he held out when he had 3 years left on his deal, the rule is you can't trade away a pick that's 2 years from now. So if you're a team who somehow has 4 or 5 first-round picks between this year and next year, okay, David. So it would have to be a team like the Dolphins because they have a ton of first-round picks. Any safeties you like? I am going to go over safeties in the near future. I do have a video on tap where I talk about corners. As of this moment, I'm not putting a lot of thought into it because as of this moment, corner is not a need. But if Diggs gets traded, then obviously we'll take it a little more seriously. I'll say this. If we do trade Diggs and we just need like an emergency, get somebody who we know is competent, Bradley McDougald is probably going to be close to the vet minimum this offseason because he was terrible for the Jets and he's old-ish and nobody's really going to want that dude, I don't think. But we know he can do decently in this defense. If you trade Diggs and you want either depth behind whoever you get to replace him or you maybe even just want him to replace Diggs, McDougald is out there. Diggs says he wants an extension on Twitter today. Well, you could make a pretty good argument that he probably makes sense. It makes sense why he would want one. I mean, he's got 1 year left. All right, guys. This stream has been going on for about an hour, but I'm going to go. Okay, my computer is froze. I don't know if you guys. Okay, there we go. But yeah, this stream's been going on for an hour, so I'm going to call it there. Thank you for the discussion. I think we did a lot of good stuff here today. Okay. So now that we're done with corner and I've revealed what I want to do, to reiterate, I want to re-sign Dunbar, re-sign Neal, and draft Tyson Campbell in the 4th. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. And that kind of ends our need to discuss serious needs. Y2K, I will get back on video game streams when I actually have a setup. You haven't been in my streams lately, Y2K. You don't know what's going on. My room is being renovated. I don't have anything set up. I can't play any video games right now. Everything is unplugged and in my storage room behind me. This is my storage room. I'm sleeping in here because my room is being renovated. So yeah, I can't stream any video games right now. So that is why I'm in this room that looks awful for streaming purposes. And there's a ton of distracting crap in the background, but yeah. Okay. So anyway, I have another video. I have more videos to upload, and I will upload a new video tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover 3 positions of minor need, where basically I feel like it's okay the way that it is. I like what we have at these positions, but there is a little bit of a hole that could stand to be filled. So tomorrow we are going to do a wide receiver, because if we lose DJ Moore, there is a little bit of a gap at the slot corner position, or slot receiver or third receiver position, because Freddie Swain hasn't proven that much yet, and other than that, we don't really have anything proven. He's the most proven of any option there. The video was recorded like 3 weeks ago, so Golden Tate will not be mentioned, because at that point in time, he was not a free agent. I will say this: if the personal issues between Wilson and Tate can be worked out or don't exist in the first place, I think that is a great idea. Yeah, Ayaan, I may make that change permanent. We'll see. But we're almost done anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, so tomorrow there's going to be a video about wide receivers, not because as of right now we desperately need new wide receivers. Quick idea: if we trade Wilson, make them take Wagner. That's not bad. But here's the problem, Y2K. I understand where you're coming from. But if you trade Wilson and Wagner, that is like $60 million in dead cap in 2021. That is almost 30% of cap. That is almost 30% of the cap. Very hard to compete under those circumstances. Yeah. It was not a good idea to sign a QB to a massive deal and then irritate him so quickly after he signed it. Not to say that Wilson is blameless in all this, but okay. So yeah, the videos that I upload for the next week are probably not going to be that interesting and may not get that many views. That's totally fine. I don't have an issue with that. Again, we're going to be talking about, minor needs, not the pressing needs. David, my gut feeling is no. And honestly, I kind of want him to get traded. So that's not even me saying what I want to happen. All right, guys, I'm out. Peace out. Go Hawks. Video tomorrow, and there will be a stream discussing it either tomorrow night or the night after. It just kind of depends. Yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow in a video that I recorded 3 weeks ago. So I won't really see you guys, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys later.